Hello, good morning. It's Mark Birdie here again. So last week the theme was freedom. So it was I did 3 sessions on what I call Super Freedom Week. So just focusing on freedom. And a worksheet to help us to do that. So the idea was to within the constraints of our lives, with COVID lockdown and everything like that, just the idea, well, what can you do within that where you actually give yourself new experiences and, just kind of, give yourself more fun, that sort of thing, or be more creative or have a sense of achievements happening. So I thought that the freedom on the one hand and responsibility on the other make a nice pair. So this week is called Super Responsibility Week. Sounds a bit mad, I know. So just the next 3 days, just focusing on responsibility. Kind of. There's been a lot of talk of responsibility, in the news and all that sort of thing. Kind of lots of going out and being a bit irresponsible and kind of not worrying about what happens in terms of giving each other COVID, that sort of thing. So I just thought it'd be good to just focus on this a bit, So actually, I realised today that it's an important anniversary in Buddhism. So 14th of October is the anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar. I think it's his conversion anniversary. So I don't know, his birth or something like that. But anyway, he gets marked today in around. Particularly in India. So in a way, he was as significant a figure as Martin Luther King, although kind of less known about. So basically, he kind of he strove to try and liberate the Dalits, what they call the ex-untouchables, from the Indian caste system, and he thought that he needed to convert to a different religion than Hinduism. So, hi Richard. He needed to convert to a different religion, and he tried everything he could, and he was a very brilliant guy. But he was plagued by he was a Dalit. He was an untouchable, and even though he rose to be the first law minister of India's first law minister, and he actually was the architect behind the Indian Constitution in 1947 when India gained independence. He still had to put up with prejudice all the time, and people wouldn't sort of drink with him or eat with him, or even though he was their boss. And so anyway, what happened in the end was that in I think it was 1954, 5, 6, something like that. I'm not good on the dates, but mid-50s, he converted to Buddhism, and he took hundreds of thousands of followers with him. So that was in Nagpur, right in the middle of India. He had this kind of conversion ceremony where he converted to Buddhism, and then he inducted all his followers into Buddhism. So I think there might have been 300,000 people there at the time. And then following days, there were more conversions. And so millions and millions of people in India converted to Buddhism. and Sangharakshita, who's my teacher, who died a couple of years ago, who's the founder of Triratna Buddhist Order, what used to be called Western Buddhist Order. He met Ambedkar in that last year of his life, and then when but basically what happened was, about 6 weeks after the conversion ceremony, he wasn't a well man, Ambedkar, and so here's a picture of him. So he wasn't well, and about 6 weeks after the conversion ceremony, he died. So his followers, who knew nothing really about Buddhism, they're just very poor, illiterate people, were just lost. They didn't have. What do we do now? We've converted to Buddhism, but what is Buddhism? Kind of. So Sangharakshita stepped in and just started doing like more conversions and talks, and he did just did this program of just endless kind of trying to inspire the Dalits to, and talk to them about what Buddhism was and all that sort of thing. So out of that, this was this is now what 65 years ago. So in the 1970s, late 1960s, the Triratna Buddhist Order, or the Western Buddhist Order, then was founded, and then in the 1970s, some people from the movement went over to India and started teaching over there, and then out of this has grown a large part of our order are now in India, running centres in India, working amongst the Dalits, the ex-untouchables. So I think maybe about there's about maybe 2,400 order members around the world, and I think maybe a third of them are in India, roughly that, or might be more even. So I'm in a worldwide order with 800 Indian order members. So the theme of responsibility. So I wanted to mention Dr. Ambedkar, saying today's the anniversary. Theme of responsibility. I suppose, the word responsibility just means to respond, doesn't it? It comes from that, so it's like when we're responsible, we actually respond to the situation. We notice what needs to happen. One of the things I've got into over the lockdown is watching a guy called John Campbell, who has daily updates on COVID, and he's a retired nurse living in Carlisle, and but he just pulls all the data, all the kind of articles, scientific articles together from around different journals and things around the world, and then he presents the pretty much. I think he's pretty good, really, in terms of trustworthy. You can trust that it's not just him. Often I think what happens is you get different bodies, and they're kind of giving a kind of party line, and then somebody else does a different one, and it's all a bit confusing. So it's kind of helpful to have somebody who's doing their best to make sense out of all that, and say, this seems to be happening here, or maybe they're not taking this into account, or whatever it is. Anyway, so 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 John Campbell is responding. He's being responsible. He's responding to the situation, by doing what he can, and he's putting like lots of hours in, really. I mean, and he's not. It's kind of like he doesn't seem to have missed a day. I mean, I've had days off and I've had weeks off and things like that doing this, but he seems to just keep going. Yeah. So what I wanted to do is to just he did a session on headaches, COVID headaches and fatigue. So he noticed that there was various articles were pointing towards headache and fatigue being a symptom, an early symptom, and I just thought that today we could do the Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation, but I thought it'd be good to just read out some of the comments to that post, to John's post, which is people just talking about their own symptoms, so yeah. So we just get a sense of like what's been happening for people, and then maybe it makes it a little bit more real or something, So Bernie O'Connor says, my symptoms were sore throat, headache, dizziness, skin rash, chills, and a low-grade fever that only lasted a week. Because I didn't have cough or shortness of breath and my fever was low-grade and short-lived, I was denied a COVID test. This was March. I recently tested positive for antibodies, though. Most of my symptoms kept coming and going for several months, so I had long COVID. But although I'm still not back 100% back to normal, yeah, I'm definitely feeling much better now. Back in AE777 says, back in March, I got all the symptoms of COVID minus the cough, but I had sharp headaches and a continuous headache along with fatigue for about 10 days. I would sleep for 12 hours and I'd have to have a nap for another 4 each day. But of course, the UK government wouldn't give me a test. Barrow Girl says, I feel like a proper YouTuber. Barrow Girl says, mine began when I noticed my throat felt a little sore, but I thought it was my imagination. Then headache and backache, thought it was PMS. Then the body ache became full blown with fever. I tested positive along with my son, which is 15. I have no taste, zero smell, cough and fatigue and brain fog. Now days in, appetite gone and diarrhea every time I eat. My son started with a very light rash and fatigue. No other symptoms, ready for this to be over. I'm 47. Max Abukar says, Dr. John, when I had the coronavirus, my eyes were so red, as well as headache, fatigue, coughing, sore throat, chest pain, sweating. If you can research if there is red eyes, I would like to know. And after I get better, I lost some of my memory. Spencer at Walford East says, I had swollen glands and tiredness and the worst headache of my life in February. It annoys me that 7 to 8 months on, there is still no test available for people to see if they have had the disease or not. Cliff says, 6 months now, still can't walk up a 100-foot hill without losing my breath. Arg. T.N. Gardner. The past week, my whole family, including myself, has had a dull headache and fatigue and feel okay otherwise. No fever. I've been checking us all, but now I'm wondering if it's possible we have this now. On Friday, I walked around cleaning the house like a zombie. I got it done, but it was like slow motion. Feeling much better now, though. As a family, we've been taking B complex, zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D daily. Praying it helps if we get it. MFRC says, same here. Even after coming out of isolation, I had those same symptoms for a long time. Also, I had no sense of taste or smell. Those persisted for approximately 14 days. By the way, excellent information as always. Nancy Widener. I'm 55 years old. My first symptoms were headache, body aches, extreme fatigue, fever and cough, nasal congestion, loss of taste and smell, intestinal cramping and loss of appetite followed. I'm on day 20 now. The day you test positive is day 0. The fever and body aches are the only symptom that has subsided. I'm still experiencing fatigue, cough, nasal congestion, loss of taste and smell, although I can smell things with very strong odours like hand sanitizer and cinnamon. And still not much of an appetite. I'm getting discouraged because at this point, I'd hoped to be feeling better. I have short spurts of energy, but then I have to sit down. I tried folding a load of laundry yesterday. I could barely get through as my arms felt very weak. This whole experience has been a nightmare, and my case is considered mild. All I know is that this has been awful, and I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Myra S. I work in a care home. We had a bad outbreak of COVID, and I've seen our COVID positive residents having both rash and red and swollen COVID toes in speech marks. In many cases, his first symptom was diarrhea. Janus Delondra. For me, it wasn't fatigue, it was utter exhaustion. I was sleeping for 12 to 14 hours. I usually sleep for 4.5 to 5 hours. I was unable to keep my eyes open from 3 o'clock onwards. 7 to 8 months later, and every few weeks it returns. Joe says, I had the virus way back in March, and I noticed the fatigue first. I was having a hard time focusing at work and feeling extremely tired, much worse than I've usually felt. I felt a complete lack of motivation to work. It creeps up on you. Yeah, John Hume, I never had a fever. The headache was my first symptom, then a viral feeling, and I had no energy, then a cough, then a feeling as though I was breathing at high altitude, breathing thin air. Nicola, serious headache, fatigue, sore throat. My partner lost his sense of smell and taste for about 3 months, had various tests, including an MRI scan. Doctors had no idea what it was. This happened late last year because before COVID became a concern in the UK. Okay, so yeah, I think that's for me. I found that's really helpful. Because it's like this is the reality for some people, you know. So it's good to hear that, you know, what the reality has been, and it's not just something that comes along. You feel awful for a bit and then it goes away. For some, it doesn't. It comes back again, and yeah. So you know, we're all different. We all have different. You know, we all have different sort of strengths in our, you know, in our constitutions, or you know, underlying symptoms of other things and all that sort of stuff. So, so what I want to do is to just invite you to just kind of bear those people in mind, and we'll do some meditation to send loving kindness out to those people. So we'll begin just by a little bit of physicality, just sitting down. So give your hands a bit of a squeeze. Brushing down the arms, body. Take a few deeper breaths. And settling down into your meditation posture. So bringing to mind those people talking about what happened to them with COVID and what's still happening to them. Just using your imagination to see that there will be people out there in the UK or wherever you are, experiencing those symptoms right now. So just imagining that you're sitting there with that person, that you're there with that person at the moment, and you're very aware of their experience. You know what they're experiencing, how they're feeling about that experience, the suffering that they're experiencing, both in terms of their actual physical symptoms, but also their anxiety and worry about the future. So we're going to do a version of the Metta Bhavana meditation called the Karuna Bhavana. So Karuna means compassion, and Bhavana means cultivation. So it's a traditional Buddhist meditation as part of a set of 4 meditations. So karuna, or compassion, is what arises when kindness and care comes into contact with suffering. So in the Karuna Bhavana, we bring a suffering person to mind to start with. And what we're trying to do is be responsible. So we're trying to respond to them appropriately. So the appropriate response is to try and be supportive and empathic. To not panic and run away, but to think of them. So may they be well. And what will tend to happen is we'll drift off, get vague about what we're doing, which is quite a natural thing for the mind to wander off in meditation. So we don't worry about it. We just keep trying to bring ourselves back to the person, to the responsible attitude towards them, wishing them well, sitting with them. Being supportive. So we can't take the disease away from them. We can't change things in that way, but we can be a presence, a supportive presence in terms of our interest, our care, our concern. And this will make a difference. Actions of body, speech, and mind. So this is an action of the mind, of the emotions, all have consequences. So we're basically connecting with three things. We're trying to connect with the experience of suffering and what that's like. So it'd be difficult to feel empathy unless we can really have a sense of that suffering in our imagination. To connect with the person, suffering person, as a center of experience. And to connect with ourselves as a center of interest and care. May they be well. And if we can connect with the suffering, and really take that on board, then it's going to be probably less likely that we will contribute to adding more suffering to other people by being irresponsible with our actions, by not wearing a mask or not socially distancing. We'll be connecting our actions with consequences. So just having a broader sense of the wider world and potential for suffering in it, connected with our actions. And wanting to do the best for the world by being responsible. In the second stage of the Karana Bhavana, we bring to mind ourselves. And just connecting with any way in which we're suffering a bit at the moment. We might be directly suffering physically in some way, or we might be suffering through anxiety about the future. Things might be going well for us. We're always worried that things might change and become different. Having a sense of having a sense of empathy towards our suffering. And trying to have a sense of responsibility towards ourselves. Are we supporting ourselves in the way that we could do? Are we looking after ourselves as well as we could do? So compassion is an emotion. It's the emotion of not wanting suffering to happen, or wanting suffering to cease. And like anything that we can want, it can be a kind of, it can be of different degrees of strength. So we can want something a little bit, or we can want it a lot. So compassion is potentially can be very strong. So a really strong desire to lift ourselves and others out of suffering. And maybe the way that we do that is to be really responsible to ourselves and to others. Even quite strongly to say no to certain things that might cause suffering or do cause suffering. Even to say something to people that we think are causing suffering, unnecessary suffering. So not being passive and sitting back and leaving it all to chance. So in the next stage, we bring to mind a friend. And in our imagination, tuning into any way in which our friend might be suffering. Maybe they are working for the NHS and have hardly had any time off for months. So being supportive towards our friend, being responsible in relation to our friend. What might we do to support our friend in their suffering, with their suffering? So it's always easier to relate to people face to face than it is through Zoom or through telephone or whatever. So maybe we need to work against that in our meditation. So that our friends and relations don't become more abstract in our minds. Connecting with the real experience in our imagination of our friend, their suffering, their concerns, wishing them well. So now just having a general sense of all the people out there in the world. And the extent to which they are suffering at the moment. So first of all, bringing to mind all the people who are actually in hospital with COVID. Or even who aren't in hospital because they live in a poor country and they don't have access to a hospital, or hospitals are all full or something like that. So all the people who really got the disease badly. Try to have a sense of sitting with them in solidarity. So that's the least we can do, is to be with them in our minds, in solidarity. That's the responsible thing to do. May they be well. Then bring to mind all the hospital staff and frontline workers around the world who are risking their own health in doing the jobs that they do. So tuning into those people's experience, their suffering. To what they are witnessing. Their own concerns about their own health and about the health of their families. and having a sense of admiration for them, for their heroism. And then bringing to mind all the people who are at home in self-isolation with symptoms, connecting up with their suffering, with their actual suffering in terms of the disease that they have, the symptoms, also their mental suffering in terms of anxiety about what's going to happen to them in the future. Will it get worse? So remembering those three things, feeling connected to the actual suffering, what that feels like, must feel like, to the person, and to ourselves. And our care for them. And then bringing to mind people who don't have any symptoms, but who've tested positive. Connecting with their suffering, maybe there's a sense of confusion or something there. What should I do? Will I get symptoms? Will I not get symptoms? How much should I isolate? What is the right thing to do? And then people who haven't tested positive, who don't have any symptoms, but who are worried about the future. Who are wanting to have a normal life with other people in it, and to have some fun, engage with others, and they're feeling the pain of not being able to do that. So again, just empathizing with them. even empathizing with people who are finding it hard to hold the whole thing in their minds and just want to go out and just be irresponsible. And connecting with the suffering inherent in that. So we often know what the right thing to do is, and we know when we're not doing it. And we will often feel a bit uncomfortable about that. So wishing those people well as well. So sing in solidarity with the irresponsible people. Trying to have a sense of understanding towards them. It's not easy. Just try to have a sense in your mind of, how you might help all those different types of people in those different situations. Maybe a friendly word, card or phone call, bit of connection, bit of encouragement, a bit of forgiveness. So bearing in mind that theme for today, the theme of responsibility, responding to everybody out there in the world. And wishing them well, all well. Bringing your meditation to a close. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good day. Okay, bye-bye.